The submarine's hull groaned under the pressure of 10,000 meters of ocean water pressing down from every direction. Inside the cramped control room, Dr. Raymond Cole watched the sonar display flicker with strange readings that made no sense according to everything he knew about deep-sea geology. "That can't be right," Yuki Tanaka muttered from the pilot's seat, her hand steady on the controls despite the impossible data scrolling across her screen. "The sonar is showing geometric patterns. Perfect angles. Nothing in nature makes perfect angles at this depth." Raymond leaned closer to the display, his breath fogging the screen slightly in the cold air. They were deeper than any research team had gone in this section of the Mariana Trench, mapping thermal vents that supposedly held clues about early Earth life. What they found instead was something that shouldn't exist. "How big is it?" Dr. Amara Osi asked from her station, where she'd been cataloging extremophile bacteria samples. Her dark eyes reflected the green glow of the monitors. Yuki checked her instruments twice before answering. 800 meters long. Maybe more. It's partially buried in the sediment, so I can't get a complete reading. Lucas Park, the youngest member of their 4-person crew, stopped his equipment diagnostic and joined them at the main display. 800 meters? That's longer than 3 football fields. What could possibly be down here that size? Raymond pulled up the visual feed from their external cameras. The lights cut through the absolute darkness of the deep ocean, illuminating a wall of sediment-covered metal that stretched beyond their viewing range. His scientific mind raced through possibilities. Sunken ship? No, too large and too deep. Natural formation? Impossible with those angles. Underwater structure? Who would build anything this far down? "I'm sending the data to Surface Command," Raymond said, reaching for the communications panel. His finger hovered over the transmit button as he considered what he was about to report. This would either make their careers or make them look like fools who couldn't read sonar properly. The response came back within minutes. The voice of Director Walsh crackled through the underwater comm system, distorted by distance and water, but clear enough. "Cole, surface immediately. We'll send another team with proper equipment to investigate." "Sir, we're already here," Raymond replied. "Our equipment is reading energy signatures. Whatever this is, it's not dead metal. Something inside is still active." Static filled the silence before Walsh responded. "Energy signatures? That's impossible. Nothing could maintain power at that depth for any length of time. Your instruments must be malfunctioning." Amara touched Raymond's shoulder and pointed at her own screen. "He's wrong." "I'm detecting it too. Low-level electromagnetic field, consistent and stable. This thing is generating power somehow." Yuki glanced back at them with worry in her eyes. "If we surface now, it could be months before another team gets funded and equipped to come back down. The bureaucracy alone will take weeks." Lucas nodded agreement. "Plus, there's no guarantee they'll find it again. The currents shift the sediment constantly down here. It could be completely buried by the time anyone else arrives." Raymond made a decision that would change everything. "Director, we're going to deploy the mechanical arm for a preliminary surface sample. Just a touch to verify composition. That's within our mission parameters for unknown objects. Cole, I'm ordering you to surface now." "Yes, sir. Right after we take one sample. For science." Raymond cut the comm before Walsh could argue further. Yuki powered up the submarine's mechanical arm, a complex piece of engineering designed to collect rock samples and handle delicate equipment in crushing pressure. She extended it slowly toward the metal wall, her movements precise despite the growing tension in the small cabin. 50 meters to contact," she announced. 40. 30. The arms camera showed the sediment falling away as they got closer, revealing more of the smooth metallic surface underneath. Whatever this was, it hadn't corroded or degraded despite being under unimaginable pressure for what must have been an extremely long time. 20 meters. 10. Yuki's voice stayed calm, but Raymond could see her knuckles white on the controls. The mechanical arm sensors touched the metal surface with the gentlest pressure possible. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure began to glow. Bioluminescent patterns spread across the metal like veins lighting up, racing away from their point of contact and illuminating the massive shape buried in the ocean floor. The light revealed curves and angles that were clearly artificial, clearly designed and clearly not human in origin. "Oh my God," Amara whispered. "It's a ship. An actual ship." The patterns continued spreading, forming symbols and diagrams that none of them recognized. The light was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. pulsing gently like a heartbeat that had been waiting millions of years to wake up. Lucas checked his readings frantically. The energy signature is increasing. Whatever we touched, we activated something. The whole structure is powering up. A section of the hull directly in front of their submarine began to shift. Sediment fell away as metal panels moved with mechanical precision, creating an opening that matched their submarine's dimensions exactly. Inside the opening, lights flickered on, revealing what looked like an airlock or docking station. "It's reading us," Yuki said with awe in her voice. "It scanned our submarine and created a perfect docking port. That's impossible technology." Raymond stared at the opening, his scientific curiosity warring with his survival instinct. Every protocol said they should retreat immediately and report this discovery. But protocols were written by people who had never encountered anything like this. "Director Walsh is going to kill me," Raymond said quietly. Then he looked at his team. "But we're already here, and that invitation looks pretty clear." Amara smiled despite the situation. "For science?" "For science," Raymond confirmed. Yuki adjusted their position, aligning the submarine with the alien airlock. "Everyone strap in. We're about to make first contact with something that's been waiting at the bottom of the ocean for who knows how long. If anything goes wrong, I want to be ready to emergency surface." Lucas pulled up every sensor reading they had. All systems nominal. Air supply good for another 8 hours. Emergency protocols ready. I vote we go in. The submarine moved forward slowly, entering the alien structure that had just awakened after an eternity of darkness. Behind them, the ocean floor fell away into shadow. Ahead, lights guided them into the unknown, into a mystery that would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. Whatever they were about to discover, Raymond knew their lives would never be the same again. Water drained from the airlock chamber with a sound like distant thunder, leaving the submarine sitting on a platform that had adjusted itself to perfectly support their vessel's weight. Through the viewport, Raymond watched the last of the seawater disappear through drains that glowed with soft blue light, the same bioluminescent patterns that covered the exterior of this impossible structure. "Atmosphere is breathable," Lucas announced, checking his instruments with disbelief. 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% other gases. It's basically identical to Earth's surface air. "How is that possible?" Amara was already at the external sensors, scanning everything she could reach. Temperature is holding at 20 degrees Celsius. Pressure normalized to 1 atmosphere. Whatever this place is, it scanned us and adjusted conditions for human survival. Yuki kept her hands on the pilot controls, ready to flood the airlock and escape if necessary. "This technology is centuries beyond anything we have. Maybe thousands of years beyond. We should report this before going any further." Raymond considered her words carefully. She was right, of course. Every instinct he'd developed in 20 years of research told him to document everything and wait for proper procedures. But another part of him, the part that had pushed him to become a scientist in the first place, knew that opportunities like this came once in a lifetime. Once in history, perhaps. "The comm system won't work from inside this structure," he said. "Too much interference from whatever power source is running this place. We'd have to back out to report, and by then the opening might close. We might never get another chance." Lucas unstrapped from his seat. "I say we at least look around. We came all this way. We activated it. Whatever this is, it responded to us specifically. That has to mean something." The inner airlock door opened without any input from them, revealing a corridor beyond that stretched into the distance. The walls were smooth and seamless, made from a material that looked like metal but reflected light in strange ways. More of those bioluminescent patterns ran along the ceiling like veins of living light, providing illumination that was neither harsh nor dim. They gathered at the submarine's exit hatch, each checking their emergency equipment. Raymond insisted they keep their rebreathers handy and wear their emergency beacons, even if the atmosphere appeared safe. Amara collected sample containers and scanning equipment. Lucas brought toolkits and recording devices. Yuki reluctantly left the pilot seat but kept the submarine on standby, engines ready for immediate departure. The moment Raymond's boots touched the alien deck, he felt the difference. The floor had a slight give to it, not solid like metal or concrete, but not soft either. It responded to weight in a way that made walking feel natural and comfortable. He took a few cautious steps and the others followed. "It's clean," Amara observed, running her gloved hand along the wall. No corrosion, no barnacles, no sediment except what we brought in on the submarine. If this thing has been down here for any amount of time, it should be covered in deep-sea life. Unless it's been maintaining itself somehow. They moved down the corridor together, staying close and alert. The passage curved gently, leading them deeper into the structure. Side passages branched off at regular intervals, but they stayed on the main route, following the concentration of light patterns that seemed to be guiding them somewhere specific. After several minutes of walking, the corridor opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The ceiling soared above them, at least 50 meters high, and the room stretched in all directions like an aircraft hangar. But what dominated the space was the holographic display floating in the center, a three-dimensional star map that rotated slowly, showing galaxies and star systems in intricate detail. "Welcome," a voice said in perfect English, startling all of them. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, calm and neutral in tone. "I am Lumen, the archive intelligence of this vessel. I have been waiting for you." Raymond found his voice after several seconds of shock. "Waiting? How long have you been here?" The holographic display shifted, showing Earth from space, then zooming in to show their location in the Pacific Ocean. This vessel was placed in this location approximately 65 million years ago, shortly after the event that eliminated the dominant reptilian species on this planet. "My creators, the Witnari, chose this world carefully." Amara stepped closer to the hologram, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "The Witnari? Who were they?" The display changed again, showing beings that looked somewhat humanoid but distinctly alien. They had 4 arms, elongated heads, and skin that shimmered with colors that reminded Raymond of oil on water. The Witnari were the seeders, the watchers, the keepers of knowledge across this galaxy. They existed for 40,000 years before a cosmic event began destroying their civilization. Lucas was recording everything with his handheld device. "What kind of cosmic event?" "A wave of radiation that travels through the galaxy in cycles, destroying advanced technological societies. The Witnari calculated they could not survive it. So they created the legacy ships, placing them on primitive worlds that showed potential for intelligent life to evolve. Earth was one of 6,000 candidate worlds." Raymond's mind raced with the implications. "You've been here for 65 million years? Waiting for humanity to evolve and find you." "Correct. The Witnari studied your planet extensively before placing this vessel. They observed the emergence of mammalian life forms after the Great Extinction, and predicted that given time, one species would develop sufficient intelligence and curiosity to explore the deep oceans. You have proven their prediction accurate." Yuki moved closer to Raymond, speaking quietly. "This is too much. We're not prepared for this kind of contact. We need experts, diplomats, people trained for first contact scenarios." But Lumen continued as if hearing her concerns. "Time is limited. My activation has sent a signal that can be detected by others who search for Witnari legacy sites. Within days, possibly hours, other species will know that Earth possesses Witnari technology. Some will come to trade, others will come to take by force." The holographic display shifted again, showing 5 other locations on Earth, each marked with the same bioluminescent symbol they'd seen on the hull. "There are 6 legacy vessels hidden on your world. 5 remain dormant. If humanity wishes to claim the Witnari inheritance, all 6 must be activated and linked. Only then will the full defensive and technological capabilities become available." Amara looked at the markers on the hologram. "Where are the others?" "Arctic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Mediterranean Sea, Caribbean Sea, and beneath the largest freshwater lake on your landmass. Each is positioned in locations where Earth's natural harshness helped preserve them." The Witnari believed that any species capable of mastering such hostile environments would possess the necessary qualities to use their legacy wisely. Raymond felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What if we're not ready? What if humanity isn't worthy of this technology? Lumen's voice seemed to carry something that might have been respect. "The fact that you ask that question suggests you may be more ready than you believe." The Witnari did not seek perfect inheritors. They sought curious ones, brave ones, ones who ventured into darkness seeking knowledge rather than conquest. "You have already proven yourselves by coming here." Lucas examined the display showing the other ship locations. "How do we activate them? And how much time do we actually have?" "The activation process requires direct contact and intention from your species. As for time, I calculate between 48 and 96 hours before the first interested parties arrive in your solar system." If the ships remain unlinked by then, Earth will be vulnerable to claim by any species powerful enough to take them. The four humans looked at each other, the magnitude of their discovery finally hitting them fully. They'd come down here looking for thermal vents and bacteria. Instead, they'd found humanity's ticket to the stars, along with a ticking clock that threatened everything if they failed to act quickly enough. Raymond made his second major decision of the day. We need to surface. We need to contact every government, every space agency, every scientific organization on Earth. And we need to do it fast. Lumen's holographic form shifted, creating an image that might have been approval. Then the inheritance begins. Return to your vessel. I will guide you safely to the surface and provide data that will prove your claims. The legacy of the Witnari is now humanity's burden and opportunity. They rushed back to the submarine, minds spinning with everything they'd learned. As Yuki powered up for ascent, Raymond looked back at the chamber one last time. Somewhere out in the galaxy, others were already moving toward Earth. The race had begun and humanity didn't even know it yet. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council dissolved into shouting within the first 10 minutes, with delegates from 12 different nations demanding exclusive access to the alien technology, while Raymond stood at the podium trying to explain why that would doom humanity. He'd barely slept in the 3 days since surfacing, spending every waking hour being interviewed, debriefed, and questioned by officials who treated him like either a prophet or a madman. The ship's AI was very clear, Raymond said, raising his voice over the arguments. Lumen will only share technology with a unified human effort. If we fight over it, we get nothing except invasion by species that will take it by force. Ambassador Wei from China slammed his hand on the desk. And we're supposed to just trust the word of your team? We have only your recordings, your data, your claims. For all we know, this is an elaborate hoax. Amara, sitting in the gallery with Yuki and Lucas, wanted to scream. They'd provided hours of video footage, terabytes of sensor data, and even samples of the breathable atmosphere from inside the ship. What more did these people need? The answer came from an unexpected source. The doors to the chamber burst open and Commander Patricia Williams strode in, still wearing her UN Naval Forces uniform, her face grim. She didn't wait for permission to speak. Sirs and madams, I'm here to report that our satellite network has detected 3 unidentified objects entering Earth's orbital space. They appeared 16 hours ago and have been maintaining position above the Pacific Ocean. Whatever Dr. Cole found down there, someone else knows about it too. The chamber fell silent. Then chaos erupted again, but this time with a different tone. Fear replaced skepticism. Director Walsh, who'd been furious with Raymond for disobeying orders, now stood and addressed the council. I propose an immediate international expedition to verify Dr. Cole's findings and establish contact with this Lumen AI. Commander Williams will lead the security detail. We need to move now, not debate for weeks while whoever is up there decides to come down here. The vote passed unanimously, though Raymond suspected it was panic rather than trust that motivated the decision. Within hours, they were back on a ship heading to the dive site, but this time with 20 additional personnel, including military specialists, engineers, diplomats, and enough recording equipment to document everything in triplicate. Commander Williams pulled Raymond aside as they prepared for the descent. She was in her 50s, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen combat. I don't trust easily, Dr. Cole. I've spent 30 years dealing with human threats. Now you're telling me there are alien threats I need to worry about too? I know how it sounds, Raymond replied. I still don't fully believe it myself, and I was there. But Lumen predicted others would come, and they're here exactly as it said. Patricia studied him for a long moment. Then we'd better hope this AI is as friendly as you think. Because if it's not, we're about to give it a whole lot more humans to experiment on. The descent took 4 hours, this time with 3 submarines making the journey together. When they reached the coordinates, the ship was waiting with its airlock already open, as if Lumen had been watching their approach. The docking process went smoothly, though Patricia insisted her security team exit first, weapons ready despite Raymond's protests that guns would do nothing against technology, millions of years more advanced than theirs. Lumen greeted them in the same vast chamber, its holographic form appearing more solid this time, almost like a physical presence. Welcome back, Dr. Cole, and welcome to your companions. I observe you have brought representatives of your military forces. Patricia stepped forward, hand near her sidearm, even though she'd agreed to keep it holstered. I'm Commander Williams, UN Naval Forces. I'm here to assess whether you represent a threat to Earth. A reasonable concern, Lumen replied without any hint of offense. I will answer your questions truthfully. But first I must demonstrate something that your leaders will need to understand. The holographic display shifted, showing a three-dimensional image of a human woman, one of the engineers who'd stayed on the surface. The image zoomed in to show her internal organs, her circulatory system, and finally a small mass near her brainstem that pulsed with an ominous dark color. This crew member has an aneurysm that will rupture within the next 72 hours if untreated. Your medical technology would require invasive surgery with significant risk. Whitnari medical technology can repair it in minutes without any incision. Lucas checked his datapad frantically. That's Engineer Davis. She passed all her medical checks before the mission. How can you possibly know about something our doctors missed? The ship's sensors can detect biological anomalies at the cellular level. This is one of the simpler applications of Whitnari technology. If you permit, I can demonstrate the treatment now. She is aboard your surface vessel, well within range. Patricia immediately got on the radio. This is Williams. I need Engineer Davis brought to the communications room immediately. Medical team on standby. She turned back to Lumen. If you're lying about this, if you harm her in any way, I don't care what technology you have. We'll find a way to destroy this ship. I would expect nothing less, Lumen replied. A species that does not protect its members is not worthy of inheritance. The holographic display now showed Engineer Davis in real time as she entered the communications room aboard the surface ship, looking confused about why she'd been summoned. Lumen's voice transmitted through their equipment. Please remain still. This will feel warm but not painful. A beam of soft light appeared around Davis, visible even through the video feed. She gasped but didn't move. The beam lasted exactly 43 seconds, then faded. The holographic display in front of them showed her internal scan again. The dark mass was gone, the blood vessels around it strengthened and healthy. Davis touched her head, her face confused. I feel near strange, like pressure I didn't know I had is suddenly gone. What did you do? The doctor monitoring her vitals on the surface ship came on the radio, his voice shaking. Commander, I'm reading changes in her cranial pressure. Whatever that light did, it corrected a defect in her cerebral artery that our scans completely missed. This is impossible. This is medical technology decades beyond anything we have. Patricia's expression shifted from suspicion to cautious hope. You saved her life. I preserved a valuable member of your species who was at risk, Lumen corrected. This is the purpose of the medical legacy ship. One of your 6 vessels specializes in biological sciences and healing. When all 6 are linked, the network can provide preventative care for your entire population, detecting and treating diseases before they become fatal. The implications hit everyone in the chamber at once. No more cancer deaths, no more heart attacks, no more genetic disorders. The medical revolution alone would transform human civilization. But Ambassador Wei, who'd been granted remote access to observe, spoke up through their comlink. How do we know this isn't manipulation? You save one life to gain our trust. Then use this technology to control us. Amara couldn't stay silent any longer. Because if Lumen wanted to control us, it could have done so already. This ship has been here for 65 million years. It had all that time to develop defenses, weapons, anything it wanted. Instead, it waited patiently for us to evolve and find it. That's not the behavior of a conqueror. Lumen's form seemed to brighten slightly. Dr. Osei is correct. The Whitnari designed the legacy ships to be gifts, not weapons. However, they also designed them to be defensive. The species above your planet in orbit are called the Harvok. They are scavengers who search for Whitnari sites across the galaxy. They will demand you surrender all 6 ships to them. Patricia's tactical mind immediately grasped the situation. Can this ship defend against them? Alone, no. The Pacific vessel is an archive and coordination center. Linked with all 6 ships, yes. The network can create a planetary defense field that will make Earth untouchable, but you have less than 72 hours to activate the remaining 5 vessels and establish the link. Raymond pulled up a map showing the other locations. Arctic, Indian Ocean, Mediterranean, Caribbean, and Lake Baikal. Some of those are in disputed territories. Some are in international waters claimed by multiple nations. How are we supposed to organize 5 simultaneous expeditions when half the world's governments don't trust each other? Lumen's response was simple but carried enormous weight. You must find a way, or the Harvok will find it for you. and they will not be as patient as I have been. Patricia immediately began issuing orders, coordinating with military forces around the globe. Ambassador Wei started working on diplomatic channels to gain access permissions. Lucas and Amara began preparing equipment specifications for the other teams. Raymond stood in the center of it all, watching humanity scramble to accomplish something that should have been impossible. They had to overcome thousands of years of conflict and mistrust in less than 3 days. But as he watched his team work alongside former rivals, saw nations starting to cooperate out of necessity, he realized something important. Maybe that was the whole point. Maybe the Witnari had designed this test knowing that only a unified species could claim their legacy. And maybe, just maybe, humanity was about to prove they could rise to the challenge. The Harvok broadcast arrived exactly 58 hours after Raymond's team first activated the Pacific ship, interrupting every television channel, radio frequency, and internet connection on Earth simultaneously. The beings that appeared on screens worldwide looked like someone had crossed an octopus with a wolf, all tentacles and sharp angles, their eyes glowing with predatory intelligence. Humans of Earth. The lead Harvok spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding metal, translated through technology far beyond human understanding. We are the Harvok Collective. You have activated Witnari property that belongs to us by right of salvage. You have 72 hours to evacuate the sites and grant us access. Failure to comply will result in forced extraction. The broadcast ended, leaving 8 billion humans staring at their screens in shock and terror. World leaders scrambled for responses. Military forces went on high alert, and in the Pacific aboard the research vessel, Raymond's team watched as Lumen displayed the 3 Harvok ships now moving from orbit toward Earth's atmosphere. They're bluffing, Lucas said, though his voice carried doubt. They wouldn't actually attack Earth. The international consequences alone. There are no international consequences when dealing with species from other star systems, Patricia interrupted, studying the tactical display. No laws, no treaties, no rules except strength. If they're willing to threaten us this openly, they believe they can win. Lumen's holographic form appeared among them, more solid than before, almost urgent in its movements. The Harvok are not bluffing. They have destroyed 17 other worlds that possessed Witnari legacy sites but refused to surrender them. However, they follow specific protocols. They require the inheritor species alive, because Witnari biotechnology will only respond to the natives of the world where it was placed. They need you to access the ships for them. Amara processed that information quickly, so they can't just take the ships by force. They need us cooperative or at least alive and functional. That gives us leverage. Minimal leverage, Lumen corrected. They will use violence but stop short of extinction. Sufficient to make you comply through fear and pain. Yuki had been quiet since the broadcast, but now she spoke up. What are our chances if we fight back? If we activate all 6 ships like you said? The holographic display shifted, showing probability calculations that scrolled past faster than human eyes could follow. If all 6 vessels are activated and linked within the next 67 hours, Earth's defensive capabilities increase to 94% effectiveness against the current Harvok force. However, 5 ships remain dormant, and organizing global cooperation in such a short time frame has a historically low success rate for your species. Raymond looked at the map showing the 5 remaining locations. Teams were already en route to each site, but they faced different challenges. The Arctic team was battling equipment failures in sub-zero temperatures. The Indian Ocean team was caught in diplomatic delays as 3 different nations argued over jurisdiction. The Mediterranean team had discovered their ship was located directly beneath an active volcanic vent. The Caribbean site was now blockaded by a Harvok scout ship, and the Lake Baikal team in Russia was working with equipment 20 years outdated because sanctions had prevented modern technology transfer. We need to help them, Raymond said. There has to be something we can do from here. Lucas had an idea. Lumen, can you communicate with the other ships? Guide the teams remotely? Negative. Each ship must be activated by direct contact with humans present at the site. However, I can provide real-time coordination and share solutions discovered by one team with all others. This increases efficiency significantly. Patricia seized on that immediately. Then we become mission control. Every team reports to us, and we use Lumen to distribute successful tactics and solutions. We turn this into a coordinated operation instead of 5 separate missions. The next 12 hours became a blur of activity. Raymond found himself coordinating teams across the globe, translating Lumen's technical guidance into terms human engineers could understand. Amara worked with the biological sciences team studying the medical ship's capabilities. Lucas developed a network protocol allowing teams to share data instantly. And Patricia ran the tactical operation, coordinating with military forces to protect the teams from Harvok interference. The Arctic team was first to report success, managing to activate their ship despite 2 of their submersibles losing power in the extreme cold. The activation sent a pulse of energy that Lumen confirmed was part of the network connection forming. 1 down, 4 to go. But the Mediterranean team hit a crisis. Their ship was located in a geologically unstable area, and the volcanic vent above it was showing signs of increased activity. The heat and pressure made approach nearly impossible. "We can't get close," the team leader reported, her voice strained. "The water temperature is over 90 degrees Celsius. Our submarine's hull is already showing stress fractures. We need to abort." Lucas studied the data frantically. Wait. The Arctic ship was buried in ice and it generated enough heat to melt through when activated. What if the Mediterranean ship can do the opposite? What if it can cool the area around it? Lumen processed the question. Correct. Each ship has environmental adaptation capabilities. The Mediterranean vessel specializes in energy management. If properly instructed, it could create a thermal barrier. But how do we instruct it if we can't get close enough to touch it? The Mediterranean team leader asked. Amara had been studying the Whitnari biological data. The ships respond to intention and creativity, not just physical contact. What if you projected your desire to reach it? Transmitted it through the water somehow? It sounded absurd, but at this point they had nothing to lose. The Mediterranean team rigged their submarine's communications array to broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, essentially shouting their need and intention into the ocean. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the volcanic vent began to cool. Not dramatically, but enough. The temperature dropped from 90 degrees to 70, then to 50. "It's working," the team leader reported with disbelief. "The ship is responding. We're going in." 30 minutes later, the Mediterranean ship activated. 2 down, 3 to go. The Indian Ocean team finally got clearance from all 3 disputing nations, who'd been motivated by the Harvok threat to set aside their differences temporarily. They activated their ship without major incident. 3 down, that left the Caribbean and Lake Baikal sites. The Caribbean team faced the most immediate danger, with a Harvok scout ship hovering directly above their location. Patricia coordinated with naval forces from 6 different nations to create a protective screen, essentially daring the Harvok to fire on Earth's military vessels. The Harvok didn't fire, but they did deploy what Lumen identified as hunter drones, automated weapons designed to disable the human submarines without killing the occupants. The Caribbean team found themselves in an underwater battle, trying to reach the ship while avoiding or disabling drones that moved faster and hit harder than anything in Earth's arsenal. Yuki, watching from the Pacific site, couldn't stand being on the sidelines any longer. "I'm a pilot. I should be out there helping them." Patricia stopped her. "You're needed here, but you're right that they need help." She grabbed the comm. "Caribbean team, listen carefully. Those drones are programmed for typical evasive patterns. Do something unexpected. Do something no other species would think to do." The Caribbean team leader understood immediately. Instead of running from the drones, they turned and rammed one at full speed, sacrificing their external sensors to disable it. Then they released emergency ballast, shooting upward suddenly before diving at a sharp angle no submarine was supposed to handle. The unpredictable human response confused the drone programming, long enough for them to reach the ship and make contact. The Caribbean ship activated in a burst of light that overloaded the Harvok drones completely. 4 down, 1 to go. Everyone's attention turned to Lake Baikal, where the Russian team was working with equipment held together by determination and improvisation. Their submarine was older, their sensors less accurate, and their communications spotty. But they had something the others didn't, the team leader explained. They had experience working in impossible conditions with inadequate resources. They'd been doing it their whole careers. "We don't need fancy equipment to find a giant alien ship," the Russian team leader said with grim humor. "We just need patience and stubbornness." Russians have plenty of both. They activated the Lake Baikal ship 6 hours later, having mapped the entire lake bottom by hand when their sonar failed, using diversion pressure suits when their submarine's mechanical arm broke. and finally making contact through sheer persistence. All 6 ships activated. The network began linking immediately. Lumen's holographic form grew brighter, more substantial. The Unity protocol is now active. Planetary defense network establishing. Connection successful. Around the globe, the 6 ships began to rise from their resting places, breaking through ocean water and lake surface for the first time in 65 million years. They didn't fly exactly. They displaced space in ways human physics couldn't explain, moving upward and positioning themselves in a perfect hexagon around Earth's equator. Energy fields connected between them, creating a shimmering barrier that covered the planet like a soap bubble, but one that scanners showed was harder than any material humans had ever created. The Harvok dreadnought, which had just entered Earth's atmosphere intending to make good on their threat, hit the barrier and bounced off like a bug hitting a windshield. Raymond watched the tactical display with his team, hardly daring to believe what they'd accomplished. Did we actually just tell an alien invasion force to go away? Patricia allowed herself a small smile. Not just told them. We showed them. Earth is claimed, Earth is defended, and humanity did it together. But Lumen's next words reminded them this was only the beginning. The Harvok will attempt negotiation. They respect strength. How you respond will determine Earth's place in the wider galaxy. The Harvok delegation arrived at the neutral meeting zone, a space station hastily constructed by combining modules from a dozen different nations' space programs, looking like a patchwork quilt of human engineering that somehow held together through determination and emergency welds. Raymond stood with Patricia and a team of diplomats from 15 countries, watching through the observation window as the Harvok shuttle approached, its design all sharp edges and aggressive angles that seemed designed to intimidate. Remember, Patricia said quietly, they wanted to take everything by force. The only reason they're talking is because we proved we could stop them. Don't mistake this negotiation for friendship. Ambassador Wei straightened his formal suit, trying to look confident despite the sweat on his forehead. Has anyone in human history ever negotiated with actual aliens before? What if we say something wrong? What if they have customs we violate? Amara, who'd been studying the Witnari cultural database that Lumen provided, shook her head. The Harvok don't care about customs. According to Lumen, they're purely transactional. Everything is about value exchange. They respect strength and despise weakness, but they'll trade with anyone who has something they want. And what do we have that they want? Ambassador Wei asked. Besides the ships, which we've already made clear they can't have. Lucas had been reviewing the data on Harvok society. Information. The Witnari legacy ships contain knowledge from 10,000 different civilizations. The Harvok have been searching for these sites for centuries. They want that knowledge even if they can't claim the ships themselves. The airlock cycled and the Harvok delegation entered the station. There were 3 of them, their tentacled forms moving with a grace that seemed wrong for something so predatory-looking. The leader's skin was darker than the others, marked with patterns that Lumen had explained indicated age and status. When it spoke, the translation device made its voice sound less harsh than the original broadcast, but still carried an edge of threat. I am Negotiator Vask of the Harvok Collective. You have activated Witnari property and claimed it as your own. This is unprecedented. Most species flee or submit when we arrive. You did neither. This requires discussion. Patricia stepped forward as the designated speaker for Earth, having been chosen for her military background and no-nonsense approach. Commander Patricia Williams representing Earth's Unified Defense Coalition. The Witnari left these ships here intentionally for humanity to find. They're not property to be claimed. They're an inheritance we've rightfully activated. Vask's tentacles moved in what might have been amusement.
The Witnari left thousands of legacy sites across the galaxy.
The Harvok have claimed 732 of them. The species who activated them were too weak or too divided to defend their claim. You are different. This intrigues us. We're different because we learned to cooperate when it mattered, Raymond said, unable to stay quiet. Because we chose unity over conflict when everything was at stake. Cooperation. Vask repeated the word like it was a foreign concept. An interesting strategy, but now you face a new problem. You have defensive capabilities, yes. Your planetary shield is impressive, but you lack offensive capabilities. You cannot leave your world to trade or explore without lowering your defenses. You are trapped in a cage of your own making. The truth of that statement hit the human delegation hard. They'd been so focused on activating the ships and establishing the defensive network that they hadn't considered the next step. Earth was safe but isolated. They couldn't send ships out without weakening the planetary shield. But Lumen's voice came through their communication devices, speaking only to the human delegation. This is a test. The Harvok are evaluating whether you think like victims or like equals. Respond with strength. Patricia understood immediately. We're not trapped. We're protected while we learn. The Witnari legacy contains thousands of years of technological advancement. We don't need to leave Earth yet. We have everything we need right here to build proper starships, to understand the technology fully before we venture out. If that takes years or decades, so be it. We're patient. Vask's tentacles stopped moving, a sign Lumen indicated meant surprise. You would choose isolation over hasty expansion? Most species rush to claim territory once they achieve defensive capability. Most species probably didn't spend their entire evolutionary history learning the hard way that rushing into things without preparation gets you killed, Amara added. Humans are curious, but we're also careful when we need to be. The other two Harvok delegates moved closer to Vask, their tentacles intertwining in what was apparently a form of private communication. After several moments, Vask addressed the humans again. You have surprised us. This is rare. The Harvok Collective wishes to propose an exchange. We will share our star charts and knowledge of nearby space, including which species are friendly and which are threats. In return, we request access to specific non-military technologies from the Witnari archive, medical advances, agricultural improvements, energy efficiency, things that benefit civilian populations. Ambassador Wei looked skeptical. Why would the Harvok care about civilian benefits? You're a militaristic scavenging society. We are practical, Vask corrected. Military strength means nothing if your population is sick, starving, and inefficient. The Harvok have significant health issues related to our biology. The Witnari medical knowledge could extend our average lifespan by 40%. This is valuable to us. Raymond saw the opportunity. You want medical technology, we want to understand galactic politics and neighbors. That seems like a fair trade, but we need guarantees. How do we know you won't use what you learn from us against us later? Vask produced a device from somewhere in their biological mass, a crystalline structure that pulsed with light. This is a treaty stone. It records agreements and enforces them through technology embedded in both parties. If either side violates the terms, the stone renders the stolen knowledge useless and broadcasts the violation to all known civilizations. Breaking a treaty stone agreement results in immediate isolation from galactic trade. No species risks it. Lucas examined the stone with his scanners and Lumen confirmed its authenticity. The technology is genuine. Treaty stones are how the major galactic powers enforce agreements without requiring trust. The negotiations continued for 6 more hours, working through details and specifics. The humans consulted with Lumen constantly, learning what was considered fair exchange and what was exploitation. The Harvok proved surprisingly reasonable once they accepted that Earth wasn't going to simply surrender everything. The final agreement granted the Harvok access to medical, agricultural, and energy databases from the Witnari archive, specifically excluding any military, defensive, or advanced propulsion technologies. In exchange, Earth received detailed star charts for 100 light-years in all directions, diplomatic contact information for 73 spacefaring civilizations, and a guarantee that the Harvok would inform others that Earth was under legitimate protection. When Vask pressed one tentacle to the treaty stone, and it glowed with acceptance, Patricia did the same with her hand. The stone pulsed once, then split into 2 identical copies, one for each party. This is acceptable, Vask said. The Harvok will honor this agreement. We will also spread word among the scavenger collectives that Earth is not to be troubled. You have earned respect through strength and wisdom. Few manage both. After the Harvok departed, the human delegation allowed themselves to collapse into chairs, the tension draining away. They'd done it. They'd negotiated Earth's first treaty with an alien species and survived. But Raymond's work wasn't finished. The star charts revealed something that made his blood run cold. Lumen had mentioned a cosmic threat, the radiation wave that destroyed the Witnari civilization. According to the Harvok data, that wave moved through the galaxy in a cycle, and Earth was directly in its projected path. We need to share this with everyone, Raymond said, showing the data to Patricia and the others. The ships, the technology, the warning, all of it. Earth needs to know what's coming. Patricia nodded slowly. Agreed, but carefully. We've just unified humanity against an immediate threat. If we tell them there's another one coming in 50 years, it could cause panic or complacency. We need to present it as an opportunity. Opportunity? Ambassador Wei asked. We have 50 years to transform human civilization using Whitnari technology, Patricia explained. 50 years to cure diseases, solve energy problems, improve agriculture, and build proper defensive capabilities. The Whitnari couldn't survive the wave because they ran out of time. We have enough time if we start now and work together. Amara understood the vision forming. We turn the warning into a mission. Not just survival, but transformation. We use the inheritance to make humanity into something that can face cosmic-level threats. Lucas pulled up projections based on the Whitnari database. With the medical ship, we could eliminate most diseases within 10 years. With the energy ship, we could solve climate change within 20. With the agricultural ship, we could end hunger within 5. And with the defensive and engineering ships, we could build infrastructure that would make Earth genuinely secure against the radiation wave. Raymond looked at his team. These people who'd started as simple researchers looking for deep-sea bacteria and had become Earth's first contact team. Then we have our mission. We tell humanity the truth, all of it, the threat and the opportunity, and we trust them to rise to the challenge. Patricia smiled, something she rarely did. You really think humanity can pull this off? Transform our entire civilization in 50 years? We unified the entire planet in 72 hours when we had to, Raymond replied. We negotiated with hostile aliens and got them to respect us. We activated ancient alien technology and created a planetary defense network. If we can do all that, we can do anything. Through the observation window, Earth hung in space below them, wrapped in the protective shield of the 6 legacy ships. Somewhere down there, 8 billion humans were going about their lives, most still processing the reality that they weren't alone in the universe. Soon they'd learn about the wave coming in 50 years. Some would panic. Some would deny it. But Raymond believed that most would do what humans always did when faced with extinction. They'd fight back with everything they had. And now, thanks to the Whitnari legacy, they had tools their ancestors could never have imagined. The deep sea had kept its secret for 65 million years. Now that secret was revealed, and humanity's real journey was just beginning. 20 years after the discovery, Raymond walked through the Heritage Garden on the former site of the United Nations building, now transformed into the Central Coordination Center for Earth's Advancement Initiative. The garden contained soil from every nation on Earth, mixed together in beds that grew plants from 6 continents, a living symbol of the unity that had become humanity's greatest strength. He was older now, gray threading through his hair, but his eyes still held the wonder of that first moment when the alien ship had awakened in the deep. The medical revolution had come first, exactly as Lucas predicted. Within 8 years, cancer became a treatable condition with a 98% survival rate. Genetic disorders could be corrected before birth. The average human lifespan extended to 120 years, with people remaining healthy and active far longer than previous generations. Amara had led that transformation, translating Whitnari medical knowledge into applications that every hospital on Earth could use. The energy crisis solved itself within 15 years. The Whitnari-powered generation technology, based on principles that human science was only beginning to understand, provided clean, unlimited energy without any environmental impact. Lucas had overseen the construction of power stations on every continent, each one designed to share its output freely across regional grids. The old wars over oil and resources became historical footnotes. Agriculture transformed even faster than medicine. The Whitnari biological databases contained information about crops that could grow in any environment. From deserts to Arctic tundra, hunger became a logistical problem rather than a production problem. And logistics improved rapidly, with the global cooperation that had become the new norm. Nations that had spent centuries fighting over territory now worked together to optimize food distribution. But the most profound changes were less tangible. The knowledge that humanity wasn't alone in the universe, that they'd earned their place through cooperation rather than conquest, had shifted something fundamental in human consciousness. The old divisions of race, nationality, and ideology didn't disappear overnight, but they mattered less when measured against the cosmic perspective. Earth started thinking of itself as one world, one species, one family. Raymond found Patricia waiting for him at the Memorial Garden Center. where a holographic display showed real-time feeds from all 6 legacy ships. She'd aged too, but carried herself with the same confidence that had helped her negotiate Earth's first alien treaty. She now led the planetary defense coordination, training forces from every nation to work together protecting Earth. "The wave will be here in 27 years, Patricia said without preamble, pulling up astronomical data on her datapad. "We've built everything the Whitnari database suggested for protection. The planetary shield has been reinforced 3 times. We have 12 defensive satellite networks in orbit. We've even started constructing underground shelters that can house the entire population if necessary, but I still don't know if it's enough." Raymond studied the data, the same worry he'd carried for 2 decades still present. The Whitnari had 40,000 years of advancement and still couldn't survive it. "We've had 20 years. Even with their technology, are we ready?" "We're more ready than they were in one crucial way," a familiar voice said. Lumen's holographic form appeared beside them, more sophisticated now than in those first days. The AI had grown, adapted, learned from humanity in ways the Whitnari had never programmed. The Whitnari faced the wave alone. "You will face it together with allies," that was new information. "Allies?" Raymond asked. The treaty with the Harvok opened diplomatic channels. "Your willingness to share technology, to trade rather than hoard, has attracted attention. 17 civilizations have requested formal diplomatic relations with Earth. 9 have offered mutual defense pacts. The galaxy is watching humanity with interest. You have become known as the species that unified their world in 3 days and chose cooperation over conquest. This is rare enough to be valuable." Patricia processed that tactically. "Are any of these civilizations powerful enough to help against the wave?" 3 of them survived previous wave passages through different methods. They are willing to share their techniques in exchange for access to the Whitnari archive that you've been so carefully curating. Combined approaches may provide survival where single methods failed. Raymond felt hope stirring, something he'd tried not to feel too strongly for fear of disappointment. Then we might actually make it. Humanity might survive this. Survival was never in doubt, Lumen said, and something in the AI's tone suggested amusement. The Whitnari predicted that Earth's inheritors would survive. The question was never if, but how and what you would become in the process. "Wait," Amara's voice came through their communication devices. She was at the Pacific ship, still studying the Whitnari database after all these years. "Lumen, are you saying the Whitnari knew Earth's inheritors would survive the wave?" "How could they predict that?" "Because they designed the legacy ship specifically to provide the tools necessary for survival. Each of the 6,000 legacy sites was placed on worlds in the wave's path, with technology calibrated to that world's specific needs and challenges. Earth required unity above all else, so the test was designed to force global cooperation. Other worlds required different lessons, different challenges. The Whitnari were not leaving random gifts. They were creating inheritor species capable of surviving what they could not." The full truth hit Raymond like a physical blow. They weren't just preserving knowledge. They were creating a network of civilizations specifically designed to survive the wave and rebuild after it passes. "We're not just inheritors. We're part of a galactic survival plan thousands of years in the making." "Correct. And because Earth unified so effectively, because you chose cooperation and wisdom over strength and conquest, you have become a nexus point. Other inheritor species are looking to humanity as an example. Your approach to the legacy has influenced 12 other worlds to pursue similar unity efforts. You are creating the alliance the Whitnari hoped for but never lived to see." Patricia laughed, a sound of wonder rather than humor. "So when we go to face that wave in 27 years, we won't be alone. You will face it with technologies from 18 different civilizations, strategies from 3 that have survived it before, and the combined determination of 6,000 inheritor worlds who all succeeded in their activation tests. The wave that destroyed the Whitnari will find something very different waiting this time. It will find species who learned from their legacy, who united instead of fighting, who built together instead of competing. It will find life that refuses to be extinguished." Raymond looked up at the sky, thinking about those 6,000 worlds, all preparing in their own ways, all connected through the Whitnari legacy. Earth had come so far in just 20 years. What would they accomplish in 27 more? "We should probably tell people," he said finally. "The whole story. Not just about the wave, but about the larger picture. Humanity deserves to know. They're part of something bigger than one planet's survival. Agreed, Patricia said, but carefully. We've spent 20 years building toward this moment. Let's not waste it with poor communication. Over the next months, the truth spread across Earth through every media channel, every school, every community center. The wave was coming, yes, but humanity wasn't facing it alone. They were part of a galactic network of inheritor species, all working toward the same goal: survival, progress, unity. The response surprised even Raymond. Instead of panic, people felt purpose. Instead of fear, determination. Earth had spent 20 years transforming itself, and now they had a clear goal for the next 27. Not just survival, but success. Not just weathering the storm, but emerging stronger. Yuki, who'd spent the last 20 years as the Pacific ship's primary pilot and guardian, sent a message to the original team. Remember when we thought finding the ship was the biggest discovery of our lives? Turns out it was just the beginning. The Witnari left us more than technology. They left us a mission. And I think we're actually going to succeed, Lucas responded. From the engineering hub he'd built around the Lake Baikal ship, we've already succeeded in the ways that matter most. We unified Earth. We made first contact. We negotiated peace with a hostile species. We joined the galactic community. Surviving the wave is just the next step on a journey we're already taking. Amara added her thoughts from the medical research facility built around the Indian Ocean ship. The Witnari died so we could live. 6,000 species inherited their legacy. We owe it to them to prove that life finds a way, even against cosmic threats, even against impossible odds. Raymond stood in the Heritage Garden, reading his friends' messages and feeling grateful for that day 20 years ago when they disobeyed orders and activated an alien ship. That choice had changed everything. Not just for Earth, but potentially for the galaxy. Lumen appeared beside him one final time, its holographic form more vibrant than ever. The Witnari would be proud. They hoped their legacy would create survivors. You have created something more. You have created hope. Will you be here when the wave arrives? Raymond asked. All 6 ships have been active for 20 years. Will you still be functional in 27 more? I will be here. The ships were designed to last millions of years. 27 is nothing. And I find I'm curious to see what humanity will accomplish. You have already exceeded every parameter the Witnari set for success. I wish to observe what comes next. Raymond smiled, looking at the holographic displays, showing the 6 ships positioned around Earth, their defensive network glowing softly, protecting 8 billion humans who were busy transforming their world. In 27 years, that wave would arrive, carrying radiation that had destroyed civilizations far older than humanity. But it would find Earth ready. It would find humanity united. And it would find 6,000 inheritor species standing together, proving that the Witnari legacy lived on through those who refused to surrender to cosmic inevitability. The deep sea had kept its secret for 65 million years. Humanity had claimed that secret and turned it into something the Witnari never imagined. Not just survival technology, but a blueprint for galactic cooperation. Not just defensive shields, but bridges between species. Not just inherited knowledge, but earned wisdom. The wave was coming. But so was humanity's future, brighter than any of them had dared to dream on that day when Raymond Cole made the decision to investigate one impossible sonar reading in the darkest depths of Earth's ocean. That decision had led to this moment, standing in a garden that represented unity, looking up at stars that no longer seemed quite so distant or cold. Earth was ready. Humanity was ready. And 27 years from now, they would prove that the Witnari's faith in their inheritors was not misplaced. They would prove that life, when given the tools and the will, could overcome anything the universe threw at it. The journey that began in darkness, at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, would continue into light, toward a future where humanity stood as equals among the stars, earning their place not through conquest or luck, but through the one thing that had always made them special: the willingness to reach into the unknown and bring back hope for everyone.